everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel we have a couple movie reviews for you guys. We're going to be talking about The Marvels, which was just released in theaters, and The Killer, which was just released on Netflix. And we're going to start it off with the MCU film. I remember an era where the MCU, if it was releasing a movie in theaters, that was the biggest event. And right now, unfortunately, with the way the MCU is, not too many people seem to even care that The Marvels was coming out this weekend. When I went and saw this movie on Thursday night during its Thursday night previews, it wasn't even a packed house. And that's just unbelievable to see. We've really fallen so hard since the end of Endgame, and I blame Disney for that, watering down the product with their Disney Plus shows, which were pretty much very generic and didn't feel special. They took away that special feeling of the MCU. It used to be an event going to see a Marvel movie in theaters, but I still had my hopes up for the Marvels. Marvel, as far as their MCU films that have come out in theaters this year, have been very hit or miss. I thought Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was a big swing and a miss and was one of the worst looking films I have ever seen. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was a pleasant surprise and is easily the best superhero film to come out this year. And the Marvels, I had no anticipation for it. While I really did enjoy the original Captain Marvel film, and I thought Brie Larson was pretty well cast, I didn't really love her performance in the original film and in Endgame, but I still really liked Brie Larson. I thought she deserved her Academy Award for Room, and I really still have a lot of stock in her, so I was pretty excited for this film, even though the trailers did look absolutely awful. So we bring back Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, and this time she's forced to team up with Monica Rambeau, a girl from her past, and also Camilla Kong, or Miss Marvel. If you guys saw her MCU show, I started it, but I didn't finish it, but the three of them are forced to team up now because their powers are starting to get swapped, and they have to figure out why. And this film also features another super villain. Of course, this super villain, like a lot of other MCU villains, by the end of the film, you're not going to care about her. Unfortunately, she's just mean-mugging it throughout the entire film, much like the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's just another nameless villain. You're not really there for the villain. You're there for the three leads, and the three of them really do a great job carrying this movie. The three have great chemistry. You really care about their relationship together. It does have some warm-hearted moments in here. All three of them do a fantastic job acting. Brie Larson turns out her best performance as Captain Marvel, but that's not to sell Monica Rambeau or Miss Marvel short. The two of them also are great, and I think bringing in Miss Marvel might help the younger audiences have a connection to her, especially if you did enjoy the Miss Marvel TV show. I kind of fell off after 2 episodes, but I thought they did a great job in this movie. Also, it's kind of strange that her family from the show is kind of following along throughout the entire story, which kind of feels forced in. Same thing, we bring in Samuel L. Jackson, but he doesn't really have too much to do, but it's always fun to see Samuel L. Jackson on the screen. Now, this movie, they did kind of pitch it as being a little bit strange and out there, and I have to admit, it was. I felt like they were trying to do something original with the MCU with this movie, and I felt like they nailed it for the most part, but there was a lot of stuff that they took a swing at, and they just completely missed. Kind of had some cringeworthy moments in here, especially right in the center. I don't know if it completely worked. Was I entertained by it? Yes, I was. This movie only comes in at 1 hour and 45 minutes long, and it really does get right into it. It doesn't waste any time. There's not a lot of filler in a world where people don't know how to use an editor in 2023 to get an MCU movie under 2 hours long. I really think that worked in its favor. I think that helped to sell this story. We don't feel like any time gets wasted. It's an entertaining enough movie. The CGI, like I've complained about with the MCU in the past, really didn't bother me too much in this movie. It didn't feel overly reliant on it when it was there. You know, it was good enough. Does it have its moments where it looks bad? Absolutely, it's still an MCU film, but it really wasn't that awful. And of course, people are going to be talking about the mid-credit scenes after this movie, which is kind of sad because I feel like that's what's going to come from this movie. And my wife, after we saw it, was like, it just kind of feels like a stepping stone movie. It doesn't feel like an important MCU film, which is a shame because I really do think that everybody gave it their all with this movie. It just kind of feels like it was good, but it wasn't great. And if I had to give the film a score of 1 to 10, I would give The Marvels a pretty solid 7 out of 10. It's not a complete waste of your time, but it's also not something I have to say you have to go see it right now in theaters. If you can wait till Disney Plus, that's probably the best for it. But seeing it in IMAX was a great experience. So if you can see it in IMAX, I can recommend it. But if you want to wait till Disney Plus, it's not that special film that you have to run out and see. Now, a special movie that just came out on Netflix is The Killer. This is the latest film from David Fincher, who is one of my favorite filmmakers. This is the guy who gave us Seven, Fight Club, Gone Girl, Zodiac. He's also the great mind behind the show Mindhunter, which still is never going to get a season 3. And this is his first film since Mank, which was nominated for Best Picture. And this feels like a more return to form for David Fincher. This feels like the kind of guy who made The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, made The Social Network, made Gone Girl, like especially like in this recent set of films. This feels like it would fit right into that. And we're bringing Michael Fassbender back to act. Michael Fassbender actually has 2 films coming out this year, but we really haven't seen him too much lately. He kind of wanted to concentrate on being a race car driver. Don't know how he fared in that, but he's still a great actor. And man, he turns up his performance in this. I love Michael Fassbender. He gave one of my favorite performances in film history in the film Steve Jobs that came out a few years ago. Really fell in love with the guy's acting chops. And he brings it to the table with this one. This movie, unlike the Marvels, is not a crowd pleaser. This one, it really has to fit your taste. If you know David Fincher and you enjoy his movies, yeah, I think you'll like this one, but it's also not very plot driven like a lot of his other movies. If you think, this is almost like the opposite of Gone Girl, except for the cinematography, because the cinematographer for this film was actually working on Gone Girl, and then eventually he started to work with David Fincher as a cinematographer on Mank. But you could just see that this is David Fincher's look. If you've seen a David Fincher film in the last 15 to 20 years, you know that look where you can find the light source in the room, everything looks clean and digital. That all carries over to here. And this time, Michael Fassbender is playing the title character, the Killer, a hitman. And at the very beginning of this movie, we see him getting ready. He pays attention to every meticulous detail of this hit. We also see him taking care of himself, taking care of his body. We get some narration from him. We're really inside of his head throughout the entire movie. And he's taking us through what it takes to be a hitman or a killer. It kind of reminded me of Max von Sydow's character in 3 Days of the Condor.
It would happen this way. Someone you know, maybe even trust, will get out of the car and offer to give you a lift.
Or a man's got to have a code. If you can handle this job, it's not a job for everyone, but if you can handle it, cut off your emotions, lack empathy, then you can do this job. And I really think that that's what this film is focusing on. It's focusing on what it takes to be an actual killer. So the plot of this movie, at the very beginning, we see him getting ready for this hit. Unfortunately, it doesn't go correctly. And now for the rest of the movie, he has to fix that problem that we saw in the opening act of the movie. And that's really the entire movie from there without spoiling anything. Obviously, there's some twists and turns throughout there, but nothing that's really going to blow you away. It's not that kind of movie. It's really just a character study of this man that Michael Fassbender is playing. And for me, it just completely worked. I love this movie. It's easily one of my favorite films of 2023. But I understand that because of the plot of this movie and how it's not very plot driven, it's more story driven, people might not enjoy this movie that much. But if you're a fan of technicals in film when it comes to audio and visuals, this movie is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to that stuff. If this doesn't get nominated in the sound department at the Academy Awards, they really don't know sound, because the way that they're cutting, Michael Fassbender will have headphones in.
A focus tool keeps the inner voice from wandering.
And he's listening to the Smiths, and they'll cut to like what it sounds like from the outside. Then they'll have a quick cut to the audio, what it sounds like in his head, really driving home the fact that we're living with this character, and you'll have narration layered on top over that audio. I mean, the audio design of this movie is phenomenal, which kills me because I doubt we'll ever get a physical release of this. It's on Netflix right now. We didn't get Mank on 4K from the Criterion Collection or on Blu-ray, so I don't imagine we will get that from Netflix right now. But Netflix, I don't ask for much, but I really, really want a physical release of The Killer. If not on 4K, on Blu-ray. I just want to really experience this and have it in my collection, in my David Fincher collection, because the technical aspect of this film is phenomenal. And they bring in Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross to do the score of this movie. It sounds very familiar, a lot like the recent David Fincher scores, but it works so well for this movie. And I don't really get to call him out much, but I'm a big opening credits guy, and the opening credits for this movie were just absolutely stunning. So like I said, the technical aspects of this movie, the great performance by Michael Fassbender, all of these aspects make this movie a fantastic film. But I really have to warn you guys, this is not a film for everybody. I can imagine a lot of people being disappointed or bored with this film, but for me, it just hit on every level. It checked a lot of boxes. It's not my favorite film of 2023, but it's definitely one I can recommend as long as you're a fan of David Fincher and a very, very dark tale that's being told with almost no humor. There's a little bit sprinkled in, but it's very dark if it is there, so you got to really keep an eye out for it. But I can recommend it, but just go into it with an open mind. How would I rate The Killer on a score of 1 to 10? I would give The Killer a 9.5 out of 10. It is easily one of my favorite films of 2023. And I can highly recommend it. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed these reviews. I could definitely recommend both of these movies. one more than the other, but I can recommend that you check them both out. And anyway, guys, if you want to continue to support Let's Talk, nothing supports Let's Talk more than you just simply liking this video, subscribing to the channel. I want to thank my channel producers, Frank Rodriguez and Jason Martin, and our director, Kevin Kruger. And if you guys want to join the ranks with them, you can just hit that join button or click the link in the description below. No pressure at all. We do have 3 tiers, and for our channel members, the people who join these fellas, we are going to be giving away a sealed copy of Mean Streets on 4K, which doesn't come out till November 21st. We'll be giving that away at the very end of this month to one of our channel members. We'll put their names on a magic wheel, spin that bad boy, and whoever it lands on, they win that copy of Mean Streets. But it's no pressure at all, guys. If you just want to keep supporting this channel, nothing helps out more than just by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, getting out in those streets, and telling your friends about us. We will be seeing you around.